Welcome back, everybody, to yet another show here on the O'Shea Duke Jackson channel. I am your host, O'Shea Duke Jackson. For those of you that were in the live stream, we had almost 26 people here, but I think we got just a little bit less. But nevertheless, we're down to about 21. I'm glad to have you people waiting. I'm sorry about the wait. Glad that you were here, especially during Black History Month. A lot of our African American brothers and sisters are here tonight for the show, especially you brothers. And today I have the professor with me today. I call him the brightest and most intelligent person on www.negromanosphere.com. And that's saying a lot because goddamn it, I run the goddamn site and he's smarter than me. So he must be a smart Negro. And he is the most whenever I need something that is very in depth or strategic thinking or a really, really good insight to life, we have to bring the one and only Professor Tony Maceo to the podcast. And you may know him. He is one half of the Mac City Limits podcast, as also playing a senior writer at negromanosphere.com and also at powerandstrategy.com as blog. And today we want to talk about is the ADOS hashtag causing division amongst blacks. ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slaves. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce to you Tony Maceo, aka Power and Strategy. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh man, I'm good, man. I'm above ground, and I'm here writing and learning, and I'm here with the chief proponent of the NegroManosphere.com, man. So I'm doing all right.
All right, brother Tony. I got to get him back involved, man. When I tell you that this brother is the brightest, I was talking to George Macon. He said, "Yeah, man, that one brother you had on the show, man, you got to link me with that brother. That brother knew what the fuck he was talking about." I said, "I know." I said, "I know that's right." Let me do this before we get into the show, Tony. For those of people who may not know you, what brought you into the YouTube space, and what brought you to create your own blog called Power and Strategy?
Well, I start at the beginning. Me and my brother, Triple XL, the Almighty Triple XL, aka the Fat Mac, he turned me on to the podcast game. I think back in 2009 and 10. Back then, we were doing a podcast on Liberated Syndicate and uploading them as MP3s. And so we were doing it. We were giving our take on women and relationships. And, we were saying a long time ago how fucked up uh, black women were. We were talking about black female fuckery before it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was that we talked about dating relationships. We talked about politics. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about pop culture. We talked about history because I'm a history buff, and I'm a person that studies politics, history, and economics, and just I'm sort of a gadfly in the mixture of society as far as those things are concerned. So it was an eclectic mix of a bunch of different issues that we were putting on this podcast. So when YouTube came along, I pretty much didn't I haven't gotten the hang of YouTube yet, and so editing and podcasting, that was Mac's thing. He was, slicker his editing game was slicker than mine. He understood that better. So I let him be. He was the Dr. Dre, and I was his DOC or his Ice Cube. So he would always call me to come on if we wanted to talk about anything that was um, a controversial, I should say, in the news or in politics, or we just gave our take on it, of the news of the day, so to speak. So from there, I started writing for. Um, well, I wasn't writing at first. I was writing for Power and Strategy, which was my own blog, and no one knew I had it. And so writing has always been that's always been a passion of mine. I'm a storyteller more than anything else. And so I formed powerstrategy.com and set it up. And I wanted to show that uh, a lot of things, because I was a big fan of the 40 Laws of Power.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at the history of African American people, and I said that our experience and our history, we are the embodiment of every single one of those laws. So I wanted to say by creating Power and Strategy that this is the way the world really works.
Okay.
Forget what everyone else is telling you. this is how the world really operates, but I was telling it from the perspective
Okay.
of the African American experience. I was telling it through, relating these stories and writing these blogs
Okay.
through the Black experience.
Okay. Okay.
So,
And you are one hell of a writer. And I had a friend named Ontario Smith that played. We went to high school together, Grant High School, same year. He wrote on his. He's drafted in the fourth round. He wrote. Had a SOD in the back of his head. Still at the draft. In the NFL draft that year. And I would have to say that Tony Maceo is still at the draft of 2017. He's been writing for Negro Manosphere for about a year and a half. And he's, like I say, he's very brilliant, as you will soon find out. Let me talk to you about this before we get into the hashtag. Tony, one of the things that you're very, very well versed in is neocolonialism when it comes to the political schemes that were going on in Africa. And what's very similar to the African American experience, we were fighting for our civil rights in the 60s, but then Africa was trying to get its independence from the British powers that be, primarily the French and England. How did, first of all, like the Africans and Caribbeans, when do you think they started to intermix with African Americans? Around what time, and what were some of the reasons that were happening in Africa that caused, them to even come to the United States?
okay, are we talking? Well, let me make sure I understand. Are you talking about the blacks in the Caribbean or the Africans coming to America? Is that
Both.
Well, I think the Africans came to America. I mean, there had always been some contact between Africans and African Americans,
Mhm.
as far back as, of course, slavery was the ultimate contact, but
Mhm.
there was always among in the African community or the African American community this heavy sentiment, this heavy attachment to Africa. If you want to talk about Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who was interested in African repatriation. Of course, there's Marcus Garvey, and there are many other names. A. Sylvester Williams.
Mhm.
All of these people were dealing with issues of repatriation to Africa. A. Sylvester Williams actually went to South Africa and was an attorney in South Africa
Mhm.
and a journalist until he got kicked out for advocating for Africans. He was a Caribbean. He was from the Caribbean, and he is the father of Pan Africanism. So
Mhm.
there had always been these contacts, but as far as Africans coming here, I would say it continued or it started, I would say, during the late 18th century, and
Mhm.
it continued right on up to the 19th century. You have the relationship that Marcus Garvey had with a lot of people talk about Deuce Muhammad Ali, the relationship that Garvey had with him. It had always been a plethora of African people coming here because Africa was basically totally. I mean, they talk about chattel slavery. Colonization on the African continent was not any different. If you look at the fabric of, I mean, if we talk about, for instance, just take for instance, the Congo under the Belgians. I mean,
Mhm.
they were literally performing mutilation. I mean, King Leopold II
Mhm.
was literally mutilating Africans
Yeah, cutting
in
off
the rubber trade.
their hands and all type of shit.
Yeah, yeah, cutting, and you talk about misogyny when it came to the women, clitoral mutilation. I mean, just cruel forms of torture. I mean, the most inhumane and vicious forms of oppression that any group of people could endure. And it got to keep in mind, it's not just the Belgians. The same thing is happening to the Belgians. Then you have Cecil Rhodes in Rhodesia, which is present day Zimbabwe. Then you have South Africa, the apartheid system under South Africa. So Africa is basically under siege,
Mhm.
and not just from the British, but from the Belgians,
Okay.
from the French, and
The
of
Portuguese.
course the Portuguese and the Germans until the Germans got
Right.
kicked out and replaced by the British during
Mhm.
the World War II military excursions and expeditions. So, I mean, the quality of life in Africa was not much different than the quality of life for Black people in America, and that's what kind of trips me out. It's funny to hear niggas stand up and diss each other with literally the same disses, the same thing that we say about them they say about us verbatim. It's the same insult. It's funny to hear two black people call each other African booty scratchers. You know, it's the same diss, the same insults, the same stereotypes.
Right.
That shit is laughable to me. But yet that's what we're doing, you know.
Mhm.
But in answer to your question, life in that country was not much different. Now again, they had always been coming here since the late 18th, 19th century, right on up to the 20th century.
Okay.
Of course, that exploded under Garveyism. You know, Garveyism exploded in the first half of the 20th century.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because we know that there are tensions. And shout out to my brothers in here, the boys. I see some brothers in Ghana here. I see all the my ADOS family. Shout out to you, brothers. I'm glad to see our African American people, especially during Black History Month. I love my people. Good to see you niggas in here tonight. All right, Hotep, Hotep. I love my people though. I can't stand you niggas, but I love y'all to death. When I see y'all in the chat room, I love you. Y'all don't know how much I can't stand you, but I love you, motherfuckers, to death. Let me talk about this, because prior to we see the 60s and 70s, it seems like, Caribbean blacks, the African blacks, and African Americans doesn't seem like, I don't know if history can report this, but you're more of a historian than I am. Doesn't seem like there was so much division in between those blacks. Seemed like, those blacks were getting along.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't because
Okay.
you had the inroads being made. We had a lot of emissaries and diplomats to the black community, because you got to realize the Africans are struggling for their liberation during the 60s. So you have
Absolutely.
two groups of people struggling at the same time against basically the same man.
Right.
Kwame Nkrumah came to power in 57.
Right.
Ghana got its independence in 57. And then you had leaders like Sokoto Ray. You had leaders like, Patrice Lumumba, in the Congo. What you have is a worldwide colonial, global anti-colonial struggle. So when Malcolm X went over to the African continent, man, he was Black America's best emissary. He was Black America's best diplomat. He was an ambassador. And it wasn't just that. Black America had also infiltrated African society based on the arts. Guys like Louis Armstrong, who has been called an Uncle Tom, and that he doesn't deserve that label. He's been called a coon. He doesn't deserve that either. But jazz had already infected the African continent. The African Americans' greatest export, as far as building a relationship with Africa, has always been the arts.
Okay.
Another one was Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson made fantastic inroads on the African continent. W.E.B. Du Bois moved to Ghana.
And
So they had
died in Ghana,
always
right?
died in Ghana. Yeah,
Died in
there had
Ghana.
always been a relationship between Africans because they looked at each other as two different people. Stephen Biko had often said that he was Dr. King's counterpart, you see. So each struggle informed the other one. So they had those linkages there. And then you had the revolution that was going on south of the border with the Cubans, all of these things. And all of the, you got to remember, the place where all of these new African or liberated African territories are assembling is the United Nations. So you have all of these African heads of states that are coming there, and they're witnessing the condition of Black people in America firsthand. And of course, they're hearing it from Malcolm X. They're hearing it from people like Che Guevara. They're hearing it from Amilcar Cabral. He's another one. These linkages were there, and they were made by Black people during the civil rights movement. And of course, it was carried on by people like Huey P. Newton and Robert F. Williams and so forth and so on. Africa granted asylum to a lot of these people that were essentially run out of the country.
Okay.
So there was this commonality of struggle. There was this solidarity formed in their struggle against global colonialism, against white global oppression. So there was a kind of brotherhood that was formed, but of course there were several things that happened that severed that relationship. And so now we at each other's throats today.
Let's talk about some of the, and let me just do this real quick. Let me basically give a shout out to the brother that's a super chat, and shout out to Wake the Hell Up. He says we should not sign any contract. Our redemption is near. Do not be fooled with the tactics, folks. Learn from previous rhetoric. Shout out to Ocean Power our strategy and the Rain Nice. Preach, brethren. Good to see you, brothers here. Do me a favor. We're gonna like the video, and I'll go ahead and make sure you guys subscribe to Tony Maceo. But do me a favor. We have all of you people put the ADOS hashtags, over 220 of y'all, but y'all can't like the video. So do me a favor. We have the professor over here tonight. You could like the video for me. I don't ask for much. Just like the video
Jesus
and listen
paid
to
it
the
all on
information.
the cross.
He paid it all on the cross, man. Niggas are cheap. You know, they come over here, get this good information, get this good game, but they ain't gonna like the damn video. So let's talk about this. Now, you said that there has been tensions, and we've noticed this tension. I mean, I'm only 37. That tension was there when I was at least kids. You know, my mom used to have some things to say. My parents used to have some things to say about other immigrant stuff like that. Where does this tension come from between blacks and black immigrants in the United States, in your opinion?
Well, the tension there had always been this idea that, of course, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, the African complicity in the transatlantic slave trade, or in the European slave. We have to acknowledge their complicity. So that conversation has never been explained, and it's more complicated. It's more complicated than what people are willing to admit, because in a lot of instances, these Africans that they're talking about that were involved and complicit in the slave trade, it was a lot of those Africans that were influenced by Islam.
Okay.
And so the Islamic influence, the Arabs have always been apologists for slavery. They've always been propagators of slavery. Slavery is part of Arabic culture. And so as these Africans that are literally on the throne, are literally making deals, cutting deals with the Europeans for weapons. So they're literally trading slaves in exchange for weapons. But to a certain extent, these Muslim rulers were essentially no different than their white colonizers in terms of how they practiced in Islam and how they saw the disposability of black people, because the slave trade on the east coast of Africa or in Eastern Africa was just as vicious. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. The slave trade, in answer to your question, the slave trade and the black complicity, or the African complicity in slave trade, created a lot of these wounds. But then what you had after the civil rights movement, or after the death of the civil rights movement, due to the urban spycraft program, such as the counterintelligence program, and concurrent with the counterinsurgency program here in the United States, you had coups being sponsored by the United States against the most progressive African leaders on the throne. So what's happening here is they're crushing the protest movements in America, and then simultaneously overthrowing the progressive leaders that have a relationship with Black America on the African continent.
Stop right there. That's important right there. So people like Nkrumah, who actually was quite cordial with African Americans and really had a lot of respect for Black Americans. He
studied in America.
Studied in America, right? He's ousted, I think, in like what, 66? 67. He's somewhere in Asia or something like that, right? And he's ousted. So basically what you're saying is those people that we were having relationships with, you know, during the times of King and stuff like that, they're holding up, white man holding us back, white man also holding the people who are loyal to, who actually have a relationship, holding their ass back too.
Yes, what it was an attack in both directions. They were attacking in both directions. So the national security state on one hand was crushing Black dissent in the United States through COINTELPRO, Operation Chaos, the Ghetto Informant Program, which was a White House program sponsored by Lyndon Baines Johnson, the same man that signed the Civil Rights Bill. The Ghetto Informant Program in New York City, they had BOSS, the Bureau special services and investigation, and they empowered these police departments throughout the country. They militarized these police departments throughout the country to crush black dissent, the most progressive forms of black dissent, and nobody was spared, not even the NAACP. So simultaneously, while you have the domestic counterinsurgency plans destroying black organizations in the country, you have the international counterinsurgency programs overthrowing African leaders like Kwame Nkrumah at the same time. And it's not just violent coups that are happening. In the case of Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's chief cash crop was cocoa. That was how they made their money. That was a key part of the Ghanaian economy was cocoa. So what they did was they artificially inflated and deflated the cocoa prices on the open exchange and destroyed Ghana's ability to actually make any money off of exporting its cash crop. Well, when you destroy the country's ability to export its chief product, what you do is you send the country into an economic tailspin. And this is one of the favorite techniques of regressive and counterinsurgent governments or counterinsurgent programs, is to destroy the economy first. Because if you can cause people, if you can bring poverty and hunger to bear, the operative thing is for those people to rise up. They said, look, your hunger or your poverty, this nigga is causing this. Get this nigga out of here. It's Kwame Nkrumah is the fault, or Kwame Nkrumah is the reason that you're suffering. Kwame Nkrumah is the reason for all of this misfortune and calamity that is befalling your country. So you need to get rid of him. And then by the same token, Kwame Nkrumah also had also made the era of falling under too far in the camp of the Russian Marxists, or the Marxist-Leninists, those people that were heavy Marxist-Leninists. And although socialism has been an idea in Africa, it has been in principle. It's been a principle in African societies, but because African societies are essentially communal. But when the Russians came in, the Russians are also power tricking Kwame Nkrumah as well. So you got one man that's being pulled in two directions. The Russians are playing him because they want their hands on Ghanaian resources, and the Americans are playing them because they want him off the throne.
So let me ask you this, and this was also during the Cold War was already in existence then. So there was a battle not only for just the resources, but for influencing the continent towards communism. So it's two. Is that also going on too?
Yep, the communists want their share.
Okay.
The Russians want their share. Okay. So the communists didn't offer the Africans any more freedom than the Westerners did.
Okay.
So both of these people are literally pulling, and the Cold War was a proxy war. It was a proxy war fought on the African continent for the resources of the continent. Africa was the richest prize of the Cold War. The Cold War was all about Africa and the Middle East, such as you want to call it. It's actually parts of Africa actually form the Middle East, but I won't go there. I won't get into that brouhaha. But Africa was the prize of the Cold War. It was the objective of the Cold War. So what you're seeing with these national security state counterinsurgent programs is they're knocking off all of the leaders that have some type of cordial relationship or have some type of warm feeling for Africans. It wasn't just Kwame Nkrumah, as you very well know. It was Patrice Lumumba. It was Pia Pinto. It was another man who was very close. I think his name was Muhammad Rahman Abdul Babu. I think that was Abdul Rahman Muhammad Babu. That was his name. He was a close compatriot of Malcolm X, and so that though after they liquidated these guys, they mopped them up, and then they put these puppet dictators, that were antithetical to black interests inside of the country. They were openly hostile towards black people.
Okay.
While at the same time screaming black power. They are openly anti-black while screaming Hotep, Hotep, Hotep.
Okay. Let me do this. 280 people watching right now. Give me some more likes on the video for those coming in. We'll get Tony's channel out there. Thank you for being here. Only 104 likes. Thank you, Brother Brandon Clark. I'll read that in just a second. Let me ask you this. So I also know, like I said, just from my knowledge, based off what you saying, you started seeing the good old military coup. You saw that, especially in places, because to be fair, Kenya didn't have that problem. Um, Tanzania didn't have that problem. Uganda kind of had the problem, but not as bad as the West African nations had the problem. They were going
Well,
through a whole lot of problems.
the eastern part of Africa, they were fighting the Arabs. Matter of
Mhm.
fact, Tanzania was actually two different countries. It was Zanzibar, and I forget what the Tanganyika and Zanzibar. That
Mhm.
those were formed as a result of the war that the Africans had for to their anti-colonial wars with their oppressors.
Mhm.
So it may not have been per se the English, excuse me, the British or the French, but they had their own colonial wars with the Arabs. They
Okay.
had their own colonial wars with sections or with at times with the Portuguese.
Okay.
So there was always on the African continent some type of anti-colonial war going on. It is a country that is steeped in anti-colonial wars.
Mhm. So when the war started breaking out, like in Ghana started being a little more unstable, the Biafra War and their instability, we started seeing a lot of these well-to-do Africans fleeing. I mean, later in the '80s, we would see that with a lot of Liberians from West Africa coming to the United States. Then these groups of Africans were coming to the United States, and they started doing very well. What becomes the tension now between these new Africans, many of them who are privileged, who come from good families, have some sort of job skill, engineer, doctor, stuff like that. This new kind of top level African is coming to America now, are in they're seeking asylum. Not all of them, but there's a good number. Then there becomes some sort of problem with the African Americans that have been here. Let's talk about that group.
In order to understand that group, you have to understand where they come from. The
Okay.
new group are the descendants of the old group, and what you have, excuse me, inside of any society, and
Hmm.
African society is no exception. Inside of every society, I don't care where it is, you have a very, very small sector of elite, affluent people. And these people tend to be very conservative. They tend
Hmm.
to be very reactionary. They tend to be very aristocratic.
Hmm.
Now, and in France, you had these group of white people who fit that description. They were aristocratic. They were very reactionary. They were very regressive and conservative. These people collaborated with the Nazis against their own people.
Hmm.
They call them, the Vichy or the Vichy French. My point is, you always have these sectors of reactionary, affluent people that are against Africans. They are against Africa itself. Their devotion is to wealth, privilege, and power. So what's happening here is when you get these dictators usually come from the ruling circles of that elite, and the ruling circle of that elite, those are the people that have the various franchises in the country. Like, let's
Hmm.
say you may have a salt merchant, someone that exports salt, or someone that exports magnesium, or someone that exports copper. Well, a family, that is a family dynasty.
Hmm.
So the only way that those people can hold on, and you got to remember, in Africa during colonial period, they're not going through the process of an election. So the only way to extract or expropriate those resources from those people is by the process of what's called a coup d'etat. So what you have is once those people are overthrown and they're thrown out of power, the United States, who is actually collaborating with this small ruling circle or
Hmm.
these small ruling class of elites, allows these people asylum here in America. We
Hmm.
saw it with the Cubans. They did it with the Cubans. They opened the doors. They gave them all types of programs for them to come here and get adjusted to society. They come, and this is a taxpayer expense, by the way.
Oh,
This
damn.
is a taxpayer expense. The Cuban Adjustment Program under Eisenhower allowed those Cubans to come here and set up an infrastructure on the American taxpayer dollar. Uh, the Central Intelligence Black Ops Plan. What was it? Operation Mongoose. They created these fake business fronts. It was budgeted over $200 million a year against Castro. This money is going into fake business fronts, and the people that are operating these business fronts are these white Cubans that want control of the sugar plantations. They
Mhm.
want control of the mineral resources of large sectors of the economy. So they're collaborating with the enemy, so to speak, against their own people.
Mhm.
So these children that you see coming here are the children of these ruling class elite. Not all of them, of
Right.
course, not all of them, but many of them are. They
Mhm.
are the children of the old conservative, reactionary, aristocratic circle of Africans that come here. They usually come through European channels, white
Mhm.
channels, either through some type of collegiate institution or some type of plan that is sponsored here. And you have some that come here that come up from what we in the black community call the rough side of the mountain. You have some that come here, from that perspective. But a lot of these people that are coming here, they're not
Mhm.
all of them are not Wody Myers.
Yeah.
It's not Wody Myers, you know, that's getting off the boat and coming here in America. A lot of
Right.
these are kids and grandchildren of
Right.
privilege.
Right.
So they come with that same old funky ass aristocrat perspective because their parents were that way, you know.
Mhm.
So they are the children and grandchildren of that elite, of that reactionary ruling class circle. So that they come here and create that animosity between themselves and Black Americans, but all of Africans or all the Africans get that stigma.
Mhm. Let me do this. I'm gonna ask one last question. I'm saying if I don't want to interrupt the flow. Let me say this, and before we get into it, shout out to C Boogie and Brandon Clark. After this question, I promise you, I'm gonna go ahead and read this, guys. I'm so glad to see our brothers and sisters, the ADOS community, and we have some of our brothers from other parts of the Black diaspora here. Good to see you guys. Make sure you give us a like on the video as we're explaining some of these things. We have the professor Tony Maceo here, dropping knowledge. Like I said, he's the brightest person on NegroManosphere.com. I hope Alan don't get mad, but yes, he's smarter than me and you. And when it comes to this kind of stuff, so let me get into this. Blacks in America, uh, your ancestors, my ancestors. I can look back. I know that my great grandmother from Bastrop, Louisiana, and my grandfather were sharecroppers, and then their fathers were sharecroppers. And for
Right.
sharecroppers, for people that don't really know what that means, they were working the man for Mr. Charlie, right? That means that they were farmers, and if they didn't produce enough shit, they owed the white man. They didn't have their own farms. There wasn't no owning no farms. Okay, it was pretty much like free slaves, if you could say that. And then, so that's where my history is. So my great grandmother, then my grandmother, and my mom, who was almost 70, picked cotton and stuff like that, and went, in the summertime for extra money. And then they went through those things. White man was walking down the street. You lived in certain parts of deep South. You crossed the street. You didn't look at white people in the eye. They called you boy. They rubbed your head, stuff like that. Black Americans went through that kind of torture and more for so many years. Then the new blacks coming from Africa, some from Britain, some from the Caribbean, they come over here and they don't have to experience any of those things for the most part. But at the same time now, all the rights that African Americans have fought for, because these people are also black, they instantly benefit. And then they
That's
start talking shit about the same people that helped them. Now, also, you know that we were giving scholarships to African students all the time, especially through
mm,
HBCUs, Tuskegee, Howard University,
Hampton.
Hampton always gave scholarships to Caribbean students, to African students. Now, it's good to always notice this. Nigeria, at one point, the naira was worth more than what? The dollar.
Yep.
They never helped our people out, never gave them shit. So when Africans started benefited from and Caribbean started benefiting from the work that the African Americans did, and they started talking about you're lazy, you ain't shit. How do you think and when you started hearing these things, how do you think that made the African American community feel?
I mean, of course, it would inflame us. It would make us feel, angry to say the least. outraged, downright, pissed off to the highest degree of festivity, because it's like you got a lot of damn nerve,
Right.
you know, you got a lot of nerve to say that, look at your situation, look at your continent. You don't even own your own fucking economy. So how can you be talking about me? Lazy. If you talk about the white man holding you back, the white man been holding you back since the beginning of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So you have very little weight to come over here and throw shade at me.
Right.
So, and then again, understanding where a lot of these people come from. A lot of these people come from that society
Mm-hmm.
of the most recalcitrant and reactionary rulers that has ever existed. It's actually, I mean, there's no other way to say it. These motherfuckers are the scum of the continent. I'm not talking about the Africans. I'm talking about those reactionary collaborators. They're the scum of the continent. So these people are not your friends. They're not. They are the children and grandchildren of Mobutu. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that the one of these actresses, was dealing with Mobutu's son. Mobutu's son, one of African dictator, and he spared no rod on her ass. She had to get away from him quick. So, it's a situation to whereas you have to understand who you're talking to. A lot of these people that you're talking to, like you said, they didn't come up on the rough side of the mountain. You came here to benefit from some shit that my ancestors did. You can't even say that your ancestors actually did anything to progress you. Your ancestors collaborated, with the very people that I had to fight in order to get these privileges.
Mm-hmm.
Your fathers and grandfathers are collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
You were a whore for European and white colonialism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in a lot of instances. So yeah, of course it's going to make a lot of African Americans upset. Of course, niggas are going to feel some kind of way about that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But we look at it as just disses because you an African booty scratcher anyway. You got a bone in your nose. Your belly is swole, flies all on your face, and you're dirty and you see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's our
Exactly.
comeback to them.
Right.
So I mean, it's bullshit. It's bullshit when we say it, and it's bullshit when they say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Let me say this, and I gotta because we want to be fair in the conversation. That's a lot of good brothers and sisters that came from Africa, and and we obviously not saying all of them are like that, are Caribbeans, because we know that's not the truth.
No,
Some of
no.
them is right there with you like a motherfucker, and will fuck somebody up for talking about you. We know that those people are out there too, but a lot of those people, I have to say that they were so disappointed in their own country. You know what I mean? And they still love their country, but looking at it, trying to be fair, looking at it from the opposite end. If you're a country like Nigeria that has like everything that you can want in the country. I mean, it was Britain's best colony, if you want to say that. It was their pride and joy. And then you can't even take advantage of anything as a citizen of a nation that has everything, land, great people, very smart people, resources, stuff like that. I think a lot of those people came to America, and when they got a chance to come to America, and where a lot of black society, I've heard a lot of Africans and Caribbean immigrants tell me this too. Hey, when I came over here, a lot of people were telling me, do not hang around African Americans. You don't want to go to jail. You don't want to get in trouble. So, we were afraid, many of us, because we were just told not to deal with, because we didn't want to go back to where we was at. We were told not to deal with y'all. We were told to not hang out with you. Even some of the students that I went to Howard with, I remember this, they were getting free scholarships to come to Howard, and their parents were telling them, don't you fuck with an African American. And I just didn't understand. I'm like, damn, well, hey, you taking up one of the scholarships from our people, but this is what they were told not to do if they wanted to be successful in the United States. What do you think about that? Is that bullshit, or do you believe it?
I believe it. It wasn't that they were just told that. They weren't just told that. It was, you got to understand, a lot of times when they come here on those scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much behind that because those scholarships also have rules. Those scholarships also have rules as to what kind of and it's this old ambiguous ass language. Your conduct cannot be unbecoming You know, you cannot have a certain type of unsavory or nefarious conduct. You can't have certain associations with certain people. That's literally written in. Well, of course, it doesn't say you can't hang around niggas. They're not that stupid.
Right.
But you understand the dog whistle. You know what they're saying,
Mhm.
because those scholarships can be taken from them if they get suspended from the university. They
Mhm.
for any political, especially for political reasons.
Mhm.
That's why you don't see many of them. You'll see maybe a couple of them, but you don't see a whole lot of them in the Black Student Union. I didn't when
Right.
I was at Norfolk State University, and we had some Africans there.
Right.
They would not associate with the Black Students Association. They wouldn't fuck with the Black Student Union, because those scholarships, it's not just those parents, not just their parents. It's not just their background, but it's the scholarships. They understand what's at stake. So they can't afford to do anything that can be deemed as controversial.
Right.
They can't afford to do anything that may raise an eyebrow. They
Yes.
can't afford to do anything that will cause people to look twice at them and say, I don't know about that,
Exactly.
because again, they can be, ripped, that they'll replace you. You like a damn spare tire. We'll just put you back wherever you came from, back in Nigeria or Kenya or wherever you came from, or Ethiopia, and replace you with another African,
Right.
that will know who to associate with, the right kind of people to associate with,
Right.
and how to conduct himself.
Right.
You know,
And we got to be fair in saying this, that a lot of these students that come here and get scholarships, their family may be doing well in Africa, but they may not be doing well in US dollars, right? Their parents may be making, I don't know, like $4,000 a month or something like that, but they can't afford their tuition. So a lot of times, like some of the students that that came over here, they were in America, they were, number one, very poor. And their whole family success was, their family was telling them, hey, listen, you need to make it, you need to get a job, and then once you get a job, you need to get your brother over here to study. You need to pay for him, help him get in. And then when both of y'all do that, y'all need to get your other brother over here. And then when y'all do that, y'all need to get us over here. So I understand the dynamic that a lot of Caribbean African students that got scholarship stuff like that, and they were the first ones to come over here, they have that pressure of, you need to make it for this family. If you don't make it for this family, you have failed all of us. So I kind of understand some of those situations or whatever. I'm not gonna sit there and say, because living overseas, I know how that feels when you live over here and you ain't, and ain't anybody to help you. So I get that mindset. It doesn't excuse what some of them do, but I understand. Having that mentality of, I gotta make it for my family. I got an opportunity. My family's not that poor, not doing well. If I don't make it, I got to make it for my family, send money back to my family. Because a lot of students, a lot of Africans, I've noticed this. When they come over here, for whatever reason, they family think that they're rich. and they come to Europe, they have to send money back home all the time. They family fucking their money up and all type of shit. So, I got to be fair. We know that happens. But here's the thing now. And let me, before I get into this, let me do the super chats, y'all. Thank you guys for liking the show. Like the video. We're going to have this as a Sunday Rebel topic, y'all. And listen, Professor Tony Maceo is here tonight. I need to get 100 subscribers for my brother, okay? Because
subscribe to my website, not to the YouTube, to the website, powerandstrategy.com. I don't upload anything on YouTube.
Oh, so okay.
The
So
website,
powerandstrategy.com. I will put the link on
website.
there.
Yes,
Website.
subscribe to the website, not the YouTube page. The website, my blog articles. I know niggas don't like to read. Website. I know niggas don't like to read. I know you don't like to read. Mac told me many times. He said, "Look, nigga, you ice skating uphill trying to get niggas to a website, to a blog." But nevertheless, the website, because I'm not really concentrating on YouTube. I'm unfortunately, I haven't mastered the podcast game, but I'm a decent writer. So subscribe to the website, powerandstrategy.com. Subscribe to the website. Subscribe to the website. Subscribe to the website. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ocean.
No, you gotta keep telling our people, because wait, what'd you say again? Subscribe to the website. What he said. Shout out to Brandon Clark. This man talks of communists and terrorists like they're supposed to be praised. I'm from Jesus, though, brother. All right, thank you, Brandon Clark. Again, he donates. Sounds like Democrats doing what Democrats do, and we vote for them. Haven't heard a Democrat talk about reparations yet. I'll gladly give up the wall for reparations. I won't even get hashtag Jamaican. Thank you, brother. C Boogie Productions, Tony, I got 75. C Boogie is coming up in these Black YouTube streets.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
He's
he is.
coming. He came from like just being a subscriber to like, I'm like, C Boogie producing videos now? Yeah, I'm like, oh shit.
See, Boogie is my dude. Let me get this straight. I'm not a friend of communists. I'm no lover of communism. I'm whoever made that super chat. Let me clear this up. First of all, I'm not speaking when you hear me explain this. Of course, I'm not talking about all Africans. I'm talking about a certain sector of that group. I'm talking about the most conservative, reactionary, regressive sector of
Right.
Africans. I'm not talking about you, Wode Maya. Not talking about Wode Maya. I'm not talking about the other brothers. I'm not talking about any of the brothers, any of the numerous brothers and sisters that fall through on Search for Uhuru's channel. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about these conservative, reactionary, ruling class sectors on the African continent that come from that sector of wealth and that are very, very reactionary, and they are adversarial. They are hostile to their own people, to say nothing of African Americans. They're hostile to other Africans. So, I wanted to
Yeah.
make that clear. That's who I'm talking to. And again, I have no great love for communists. I'm not interested in communism, not interested in Marxism. I'm not interested in anything that has to do with the Soviet Union whatsoever. So please, I don't know what you're listening to. I don't think I said that, but I think you should probably listen a little harder to what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. So please don't get that garbled in transmission. I do not support communism in any way.
Okay, so let me also do this. Let me see here. Uh Now, conservative talks about reparations for years, and coach been talking about since 2012. Read this in my last one, spending money for nothing. All right, thank you, my brother. D-Han 219. The Cubans came into Miami and worked with the Colombians to sell cocaine in the 80s. The Cubans used
Yes.
the drugs to build building businesses, cars, dealers, and banks. The blacks own nothing. Absolutely.
Well, see, the thing is, that somebody underwrote that for them. You see,
Mm-hmm.
yes, he's right. The Cubans did bring in the cocaine. There's actually a documentary called Cocaine Cowboys where they talk about this type of thing. But the Cuban passport was underwritten by the taxpayer under the Eisenhower administration. The Cuban Adjustment Act of 1966 is what gave these people an infrastructure by which they took over Miami. It gave them an infrastructure. And then when I talked about earlier, Operation Mongoose, which was a counterinsurgency program against Castro, that program was budgeted annually, hundreds of millions of dollars annually, taxpayer dollars. And what would happen is that they set up these fake business fronts as a way to create money to fund these counterinsurgent operations against Castro. And a lot of these Cubans took that money that they were making in these counterinsurgent programs and underwrote or they girded a financial base for their community. Marco Rubio isn't happenstance. He isn't designed. He's by design. He's not happenstance. It's not an accident that he holds that kind of power in Florida. He
Mm-hmm.
comes from a community of entrenched wealth that was created on government subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so these people were underwritten. A lot of these Africans, I can say the same thing about them. As a matter of fact, that was my point. When you see these people in the community, they're here on government subsidies. A lot of these people that are talking funky about African Americans are here. You have a hell of a nerve to be talking about lazy, and you're here on government subsidies your damn self.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Green
because a lot
card
of
and all kind of
yeah,
shit.
a lot of these people come here because again, it goes back to that conservative reactionary element. Whenever they lose power, whenever there's a coup, the doors are flung open to them. They're given open asylum. But
Yep.
they know they can't go in and set up in the white community because white folks ain't going they're not going to stand for you coming in, taking over the economy of their community, speaking that African dialect. That they're not going to stand that. So they put you in a place where you would be virtually indistinguishable because niggas ain't going to ask questions. They just in there buying your loose cigarettes, chicken wings, and malt liquor. You know. So we ain't asking no questions. We just buying lottery tickets and all kind of bullshit from your store. We never examine where these people came from. And in a lot of instances, that's who these people are. They are the declassed sectors of a society that was either overthrown or removed from power. And they're given carte blanche. They're given access to sectors of the
Mhm.
black economy in the black community.
Let me read this one here. The black kites, the infighting amongst the African American group gives other groups a reason to want to hold us back. That's the reality of it. I definitely agree with that. We're gonna talk about it today. Jay Shaw, I have also viewed black immigrants as funny style. Thank you, Doug. HU versus Norfolk State. Tony, you're still my brother, although you went to NSU. Andre Thomas, first generation American here, parents from the mountains of Jamaica. Thank you for $10 super chat. I've dealt with some shit here and here, and I support y'all. Family. Thank you, brother. Liquor Store Eddie. 21 Savage, a lot video is black love. We all need to come together. As when people, the pain is universal, the power is too. Laziness is correct, but you're right about us taking advantage of privileges, but it's not about being successful and preserving family values. I was VP of BSU. All right. So this guy is racist, though, something like that. Okay. Let me get back to this real quick. I want to talk about when, shout out to Harry Mingo. He says, Aborigine American ADOS I am. Thank you for our ADOS brothers and all our brothers here today. You know, I started to see like when black immigrants and African immigrants, because what started happening, Tony, at some point, I don't know, maybe you know better than me. They started classifying everybody as black, African American. So even if you're an African immigrant, or you're from Nigeria, or you're from Ghana, or you're from these other places, Trinidad, they started classifying all of us as black. What's the danger in that?
Well, I mean, that's a good question because if you go by America's definition of blackness, that would be correct. If you go by America's definition, because America's definition is very simplistic. If you're not white, you're black. That's the way they typically define, because again, even with Spanish people, even with Middle Eastern, for the longest they call Middle Eastern or Arabs, they call them sand niggas. So blackness is the contrast. It is the measurement by which you measure all other people, and the degree of whiteness, or the psychic wages of whiteness, is how you measure everyone against. It is the measurement by which you measure all these classifications against. So what they've done is they've morphed, in spite of their best efforts, they've morphed society into basically two classes, black or white, and all these other people are variations. So that's done because it gives white people a definition by which to say they're white. It's a definition by, okay, you're not white, so you're black. You're not one of us, so you're black.
Mhm.
Well, I'm from the Middle East. I'm from India. A motherfucker from India can be dark as you.
Yeah, say
I can
that. Say that.
be dark as you. You know,
Right.
you're not one of us. You're the other. It is a way to classify and designate other people as the other. It's a way to contrast them against this idea of whiteness. So that's why they lump everybody in together, because it's a way for them to say, okay, you're not with us, you're with them. And when you bring out these classifications, they inherently carry with them the idea, the principle, or the concept of subordination.
Mhm.
So if you're not with us, you're not in the in group. You're not with the superior group. You're not with the group in power. You're in the group that must be subordinated. You're in the group that must serve. You're in the group that must be hewers of wood and drawers of water for us. It gives white people an easy way to segregate, and it gives them an excuse, a false excuse, to subordinate other people of color to their illusory will. Because again, I think I was on a panel with Nagone, and Nagone said this white man is not smart, and he's right. He's not smart. Now he's brutal, but he's not smart. So it becomes a way. I think it becomes a way for white people to tell they're too lazy to make the differentiation. So if all they know is you're not white. So if you're not white, you're black, and that's the end of that shit. Well, I'm an Arab. Okay, you're a sand nigga. Okay, well I'm a Native American. Okay, you're an Indian nigga. Okay, well I'm a Hispanic. You're a Spanish nigga. Go back to your barrio, you know, Boricua, Moena, and all that shit. It's easier for them to classify you as black because it doesn't require any work.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the bottom of the dung heap. You're black. All we know is you're not white. So if you're not white, you're black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me kind of get to this real quick. What happens though? I mean, now that because here's what I've noticed, and I got to be real. I've been across. I know you've been using the military. You've been, all over the world. I've really been to just. I mean, I've been through here and there through Europe, but I've been through here in Africa and stuff like that. What I've noticed is when it comes to Africans, we are much more accepting of them and Caribbeans, meaning that if they want to come in our community and we have no problem letting them into our stuff and even letting them run shit. For example, the Professional Black Caucus. For example, I believe that North Carolina. What's that? North Carolina. What's that one college? HBCU, not North Carolina
North
A&T,
Carolina
but
A&T,
North Carolina Central
North
University
Carolina Central University,
is
NCCU.
has a Nigerian provost or chancellor. Okay, but when it comes to us, for example, we were accepted of Marcus Garvey. Look at Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan is not necessarily an African American. His parents are from the Caribbean. He runs the Nation of Islam.
Hmm.
When it comes to other groups, we may talk shit about them here and there, but we allow them into our communities. Even there's not much complaints about actors who play African American roles. You might hear it here and there, but I noticed that when it comes to us being in, you will never find us running shit in their communities. When it comes to shit that they want to do for themselves, they leave us the fuck out of it. We are never included on anything that they have going. I noticed that, but there's a lot of effort for them to want to get into our entertainment industries. There's a lot of effort to them to want to get into all our shit. But it's never the other way around. Why do you think that is, or is it because we're just not interested in getting into their stuff?
I think a lot of times, anything black, realistically to black people, I'm just gonna keep it real. Anything black holds no value, even to black people.
Mm-hmm.
Even to black people, and that is to say, we don't even value our own shit. I mean, we had the Chitlin Circuit, which was a network of black clubs, and
Mm-hmm.
we threw that away for the mainstream. But then all the rappers said, "Fuck the mainstream" and let them cross over to us. But now we're going back to that idea of the mainstream is better, the white man's ice is cold, and so forth
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So that's because we don't value anything black. But even if they had something of value, we're too fucking brainwashed to see any value in it.
Yeah.
You can't possibly have anything I would want. You an African booty scratcher. There's nothing you want. There's nothing you have that I would want. Because we're poisoned by that imagery. We're poisoned by that stereotype. We're poisoned by that caricature. But by the same token, I would say, I would agree with you. Niggas are way too tolerant. I mean, and I know the reason that is because, I mean, when you're in a society where you've been excluded, where you've been constantly disenfranchised,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really want to take on, that persona of being a motherfucker that closes the gate because you remember when someone closed the gate for you. You
Uh
remember
oh.
when you
Say
couldn't
that
come back.
again. Say that again. Say
You
it
know,
again.
you don't want to take on the character trait of your enemy because you know what it feels like to have a door slammed in your face. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to turn around and shut the door and slam the door in someone else's face.
Right.
You don't want to repeat that behavior.
Right.
You know what it's like to have a gate slammed in your face, so you don't want to slam it in anyone else's face.
Right.
But the downside of that is you become too tolerant. I mean, niggas accept everything, even the AIDS virus you know so I mean we are far too tolerant and we are far too accepting in cases where we need to be a little bit more discriminatory. We need to be a little bit more careful about who we pull into our sectors, but I think we're doing it because we know what it's like to be excluded. You know what that means. You know what isolation means. You know what disenfranchisement means. You know what exclusion means. That shit means deprivation. In many instances it means starving. It means starvation. It means poverty. It means suffering. So I don't think that when it comes to us, we are ruthless on each other, but with everyone else, we got a heart of gold. You know, we are lapdogs when it comes to other people, but we are attack dogs and pit bulls when it comes to us.
Mhm.
So a lot of that is our nature. A lot of that is how fucked up we are due to our experience and our inability to learn from the mistakes of our experience. Every person that you welcome in, even though they have a black skin, they're not going to be your brother.
Mhm.
I mean, Chuck D said it best: every brother ain't a brother. Uh, a nigga that rob you when you steal from me, I don't care what color. I don't care if you my brother. You get an ass whooping too.
Right.
I don't care that you black. I don't care, and you can come from Kenya, but if you steal from me, Mufasa Chekwele, I gotta go up in your mouth.
So
You
let
know,
me ask you this, and guys, thank you so much. 461 watching. Can we get the likes up real quick, brothers? That's here tonight. 457. We have one of our writers for the Negro Manosphere here today. Whenever I have one of my senior writers on, I'm just so glad to have them. Do me a favor and like the video. Like the video, y'all. We should have more likes and subscriptions, right? We're gonna get it. It's free. It's free to like the goddamn video, nigga. Jesus paid it all on the cross. Like the video. It's free to like the goddamn video. So let's go to the main question. Hour into it. I've heard some criticism. And it's been going on Black Twitter. Shout out to Black Twitter. I need to get a Twitter account because Black Twitter is fucking crazy. Them niggas on Black Twitter, I don't know what's wrong with these niggas, but they are fucking insane. They be going at it all night. And there are other groups out there, a lot of immigrant groups that I've heard these criticisms. Those people using that hashtag ADOS, you're separating blacks, you're separating yourself, you're dividing blacks. Okay. We are all black, so why are you trying to separate yourself? That's racism. The white man look at you as a nigga still. I heard some of these other groups, we all some of these things, we're all immigrants. So I want to know from you, do you think that the hashtag ADOS and African Americans, those people like us, and the majority of folks in the chat, that we are trying to cause divisions amongst other blacks by doing this?
no, I don't think it's causing division. Again, we're no more divided than what we already are. You can't. I mean, I'm in Ohio. You are, I assume, somewhere in Poland.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That that title doesn't cause us any more division than what presently exists.
Right.
It doesn't make or break. It's not anything that's going to cause black people to say, it's not going to cause anything that's going to cause black people to dislike or to have any more of a problem than we already have with
Right.
other black people. Because that division is there with or without that label. That division is there with or without ADO. That's there with or without the hashtag. The hashtag is a symptom of the problem. You see,
Mm-hmm.
it is a product, it is a consequence of the separation that's been going on for the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that hashtag is not causing any more drama than what presently exists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you come here and you call us lazy, all on all on my taxpayers' expense, all on the taxpayers' dime, on my dime, you come here and call me lazy. You come here and you internalize the worst stereotypes about me. You have already defined me as somebody who you don't want to, be around. You don't even
Right.
want to deal with me.
Right.
So
Right.
how can a hashtag be any more profound than your conduct? How
Right.
can it be any worse than how you look at me?
Right.
Your behavior and your conduct tells me I'm a descendant of slaves. It's not that hashtag. That's what you're saying. That's how you see me as a descendant of slaves. Even though you were colonized, you were in a form of chattel slavery. You were in chattel slavery by a different name.
Mm-hmm.
You made the distinction. I'm just recognizing, how you're acting towards me. I'm just reducing to an acronym how you feel about me.
Right.
That's how you see me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no idea of further dividing. The divide is already there. It's been there.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like, how can you get a girl pregnant that's already pregnant? You're already pregnant.
No, I agree, and I think like the thing is this, and I'm not saying this is the truth because we even have some African Americans that say, "Oh, that's causing division amongst blacks, and we all black." I think to your point, I said this, really, and I was in Kampala, Uganda, when me and Mr. Jap did this video about do they love us? And I think that when it comes to Africa, a lot of blacks are do want to be accepted by Africans. I mean, probably not anymore like they was, but you know, the question is like there's like the dude, what's this guy? 21 Savage, 250,000 signatures to keep this man in the United States. And the thing that African Americans need to ask people, do you really love us? It's not about we always looking out. I mean, as far as I really feel like our people, the African Americans, we have been the host for everybody. We've been the host for the Spanish community, Hispanic community when they wanted to get on. They put their issues to our folks. The gay community, they got us to say, oh well, we are also we're being discriminated against you. Then all the other groups, all the other black groups, oh no, we're black too. And then once they get on and get what they need from us, they bounce the fuck off, And then as far as for the culture that we have, they they don't have no problem emulating us to be cool. They don't have no problem emulating us to get to make Nollywood or to make whatever they got to do and bite off our shit. That none of that come back to us when we to put everybody on. Everybody get put on by us. And I'm sorry, I have to admit, the African American blacks are. This is the truth. I feel that we're the most talented group and I'm not shitting on anybody anywhere in the world for whatever reason. Why that is, our group is the most talented. That's not me being mean, but that's just what I feel. And as this group moves, it puts everybody on to be cool, to be black. Period. We accept the Cardi B's, the Nicki Minaj's, all of them people into our shit. Come on now, how many African Americans can out-sing Rihanna? Man, that's a little girl somewhere in Detroit that'll blow her fucking socks off. You know what I mean? And me personally, Brother Tony, I think that Pan-Africanism, as much as I go to Africa and I like Africa and I'm going to still go back, I think that hurts us because we have been getting pimped by that concept for so long and don't nobody benefit from Pan-Africanism but Africans. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good thing for us or what?
There's no power behind Pan-Africanism. It's just a word. It's just a slogan. It's an empty fist with no programs, with no plans. There's no power behind any of this. So when you said, when we asked, why don't we get that same kind of love, or what happens, or when we ask people, do you love us? We're scared of that answer because we know what that answer is. Nobody loves a weak constituency of people. Nobody loves a weak constituency. Nobody. You're a burden. Think about it. If a nigga is living in your house, you sponsoring a relative, and he living in your house, he ain't got no job. He's sitting up watching you go to school every day. He's sitting up watching you hustle and get on YouTube every day. That's your family. You love them, but the motherfucker's a burden. You see what I'm saying? So if you're talking about African Americans, if you're talking about black people, we are the most disenfranchised group that exists in America. Nobody loves a loser. Nobody loves to be associated with a loser. They'll take shit from you. They'll appropriate your slang. They'll adapt your culture, or they'll adopt your culture. They'll assimilate your culture. But as far as being associated with you, nah. You the ugly bitch with the slow eye. You see what I'm saying? They'll hit you in the dark. When nobody's looking, they're going to call you at 3 a.m. and come through and give you 75 for your trouble, but they ain't finna sport you in public.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, that's what it is. What you did, what we have to understand is that our problem is that we have no power. We have no collective power. I'm not talking about black people that are individually affluent or black people that are individually successful, there's no collective power that exists within. So, in other words, you can go into a Jewish community. If an outsider puts his hand on a Jewish person, you're going to know about it. You're going to know there are going to be consequences, repercussions, and circumstances, and all other types of outcomes, bad outcomes that comes from touching or dealing or infringing or assaulting someone of a separate racial group where that racial group has some degree of political and economic power. There are consequences to that. And no consequences when you fuck a nigga up.
Right.
None. None. So if there's no consequences, there's no fear of doing you wrong, there's no respect for you.
Exactly.
You know. So I mean, if I can just come in, it's just like anything. It's like, think about a thought. I mean, who respects a thought? Everybody loves fucking one, but you don't respect the thought. You understand?
Right.
So it's a situation where you're weak. How can you
Mhm.
respect somebody that's weak?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, a lot of that, I was telling it like that. I made a video talking about creating loyalty and opportunities within the ADOS community. Everybody wants to hashtag ADOS and be united as a tribe. And I do believe we deserve our own flag. We do need to be separate from other blacks, right? That's not dissing any other blacks, right? But we do need to be separate. We need to have our own set. That's not separating or dividing blacks. Because I'm gonna tell you why. When a Nigerian graduates medical school or when they graduate law school, what do they say? Hashtag Niger, hashtag Nigerian, hashtag Haiti, hashtag Trinidad, all of this stuff. They put their flags up and shit all the goddamn time. Even though you live in America. We understand that. But see, if we do that all of a sudden, now we being racist and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. The division amongst blacks, we were never the same for the most part, outside that we look the same and are the same people. That don't mean that they hate us because they want to rep Nigeria or they want to rep Ivory Coast or they want to rep Ghana. That's not causing division amongst blacks. The division amongst blacks is the reason why they had to come to America in the first place. Okay. Shit,
Yeah,
Nigerians don't like each other. Shit, Ghanaians don't like each other. You know what I've heard, Tony? To be honest, I've heard people tell us that we stick together and we support each other more than they do. I've heard many folks tell us that. I've heard many Africans say, man, the way that y'all support each other and stick together, even though y'all be doing some crazy shit. Yo, man, you can't get that kind of support from Africans. I've heard Africans telling me that.
The real truth is we're mirror reflections of one another.
Right.
And we hate what we see.
Right.
Because we see the worst in each other.
No, we all fucked up.
Yeah, we're all fucked up. But you need a way to consolidate your power. In reference to your point, you need a way to consolidate your power. You need a center. You need a center of gravity. And that center of gravity only comes when people of that particular ilk, of that particular situation, have some point of unity. You can't get shit done without unity.
Right.
You can't get anything done without everybody devoting themselves to a single outcome or purpose. That's called a community. That's what that's called. When people dedicate themselves to the maintenance, development, expansion, and prosperity of an idea, that's called a community.
Right.
That's the focal point of your existence.
Exactly.
So, and that idea is more African than anything else. So I don't understand. Wouldn't be able to get that. Being in a group or being amongst a group. That's how you harness your power. That's what power is. Power is a collective experience.
Yes.
It's not a singular thing. A football team doesn't win a damn Super Bowl ring back. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have defensive back, If he doesn't have defensive backs, he got a one-way ticket to a concussion
Right.
or getting his neck snapped. So, uh, power is a collective thing. You have to have some degree where everyone, you have to have some situation where everyone to a certain degree rather agrees to stick together, where everyone agrees to devote themselves to an idea, principle, or concept that is worth dying for. And you
Right.
have to be willing to exclude people that do not represent that idea, that do not represent that concept, that do not represent that principle.
Right.
You'll never get anything done if you don't do that. As what you're seeing now. We
Hmm.
can't get anything done. We can get some bullshit done. We can get some nigga shit done in a heartbeat. We experts, we PhDs when it comes to nigga shit, but when it comes to something productive, can't do it because there's no collective unity, there's no collective purpose. This is not being pro-black, this is not being a pan out. This is common sense. This is common sense. When you go to a bank to cash your check, I'm assuming you cash many of them. Is it just one person in that damn? Is it just one teller in the bank?
No, it's more than
No,
one.
it's a damn. Yeah, it's a bank president. It's a teller. It's a manager. It's a loan officer. It's
Hmm.
somebody there that deals with investments. It's a collective. It's a group, and they are dedicated to the prosperity of that bank.
Yes.
You're paying them. They're there to advance the goals, objectives, and outcomes of that institution. That's what they're there for. Anybody there, you come in there and your goal is not to, in some way, enhance the prosperity of that institution. They're going to kick your ass out of there. You
Right.
can't stay there. If you ain't depositing no money in here, nigga, get out of here because I think you trolling. I think you scheming on how to rob us. You
Right.
looking a little too hard. You got to go. You
Right.
see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So the situation is that if you don't have people dedicated to a purpose and
Yes.
they don't or they refuse to exercise the ability to remove people that are not part and parcel of that purpose or that objective, you'll never have anything worth having. You'll forever be a weak constituency. People will forever be taking shit from you. You'll
Hmm.
forever be food for the system, which is where we are. We're the battery. We're the food for the system, and that's just what you'll be. You're just a real cool jump off. They just want to swing through and get whatever they can get from you, and they're out.
Right. Right. So let me do this real quick and shit. O'Shea versus Dynasty debate. I mean, Dynasty, he agrees with a lot of things that I agree with too. Me and Dynasty are very close because we both love Africa, but at the same time, we can't. Like I said, we can't be done. But me and Dynasty agree with certain situations, but mostly a lot of things we do agree with. Miss Bright Eyes, O'Shea, I love you. The show, you're my favorite male YouTuber. Thank you, boo. You looking cute. We got your little nice hair there, girl. I see you. Don't hurt nobody. Joseph Ashley. Love it when you have Tony on your channel. Brother drops knowledge. I told you, man. He's the motherfucking professor at NegroMansford.com. We gonna do one on AG Gaston on y'all because it's Black History. We were meaning to do that show. Ross Oxafari, Unity. Nana Walbeck. Peace, O'Shea. The best and worst parts of Black American culture come from Africa. Period. I wouldn't say that, but I wouldn't say that, but
What did he say? I'm going to repeat that again.
he
The
said
best.
the best and worst parts. Oh, the best and worst. Okay, the best and worst. Okay, I mean, I would probably say the worst parts of Black American culture come from Africa. Period. We'll talk about
Well,
that in a minute. I
well,
mean,
I mean, there's certainly
yeah,
an argument that can
yeah,
be made
being
for
late because being late is definitely some African shit.
that. Well,
That is
I mean,
true.
even if
Because
you
they
look at
late
hip
and we
hop,
late to the motherfucker.
even if you look at hip hop, the old call and response routine that we borrow from hip hop, that is a very old African practice, musical practice and ritual.
Yeah, that
The
we that's
concept
also in the church when the hooping and hollering and people
Yep,
talk back.
also in the church.
Yeah,
Yeah. Also, I think the idea of collectivism, the idea of a community, that
yeah,
community is deeply African. African societies were very communal, very communal.
yeah.
That's what made them so great. Here in America, I take for instance, I'll give you an example. The rent parties. The rent party, that's a collective thing. When somebody can't make their rent on the block, you throw a party, you serve food, you see, and the people come in, or what they used to call them Harlem rent parties because it was practiced in New York City. That's where the practice comes from. It's Harlem, New York, where they would throw rent parties, where they would serve food and charge admission, and it would save people from being evicted. And I'm not saying that there were rent parties in Africa. I'm talking about the principle itself is based upon a collective idea. So
Mhm.
the African American and the Africans share that practice of communalism. They share that practice of community. But where we are now is some other shit. So
Okay. Let me do okay, let me shout some people out. C Boogie. C Boogie, I was gonna get to that when I believe women keeps a lot of black men separated. Shout out to C Boogie, man. C Boogie, let me borrow some subscribers, brother. You think I don't see you, man? You know, shit.
C-Book is my dog.
Man, C Boogie be live, have more niggas watching than me, man. Start hating on you, brother. You trying to hold me back, nigga? Shit, over
Send,
here.
send the white man over there to hold C-Boogie back.
Yeah, I'm at the have to hold him back, man. He over here taking a little bit of my too much of my shine, brother. All right, Charles Merchant. To be conservative is precautionary, never reactionary. Shout out to brother Charles Merchant out in Vegas, K Zagging. What up, little big bro? What's up with you, man? I see you getting all them subscribers too over there. Ross Oxtafari, Common Unity, $99. Let's talk about this real quick, Tony, because I got a lot of love for Africa, right? And I always I get some criticisms because I'm there. And thank you, left seat, Shawty, paying my taxes of the week. I don't think that dividing, because I met a lot of good African brothers, a lot of but in Africa, in Poland, Nii Adarabigbe, he's runs NegroMansfree.com, a Nigerian guy. I have a show with the brother Aaron on my on the couch. I met some dynamite Africans, and a lot of those people, if you can, if you show that you appreciate them, you got somebody. They're good people. But then I think that a lot of African Americans feel like we don't have no relationship with Africa. we need to be hostile to certain blacks. I think still that also is the wrong move. Can we still have some form of relationship, because they are our distant cousins in certain ways, our distant people? Is there a way that African Americans can still um, do things to help our people by collaborating with the African community, whether that's in Africa, whether that's in America? Are there ways that we can benefit off of each other versus us thinking that it's always been one-sided? Should African Americans just pretty much not deal with Africa at all? Should we not deal with the African Union? Well, really, the African Union is. I won't deal with that right now. But what do you think? Do we have any? Should we be trying to make relationships in Africa in certain situations?
We should always try to establish a relationship with Africa, because I mean, let's get off the bullshit. I know some people. I hear some YouTubers saying, "Well, I'm not. I didn't come from Africa. I'm not from Africa." We understand that we're all Americans, and the United States that's our physical place of origin. But Africa, white people are claiming Africa. That's what kills me. Niggas don't want to claim Africa, but white people will claim Africa.
Man,
So
and they be going there all the time,
religiously, religiously,
making
you know,
money hand over fist.
hand over fist. You got white people around here studying Verdun, African religions. You
Yeah.
can go into a black college and take black history, and it's a white man in there, a hippie type, or he may be a little bit more moderate, but he
Mhm.
knows more about African spiritual systems than the average nigga on the block.
Yep.
You
And can
see?
speak the
So
languages and everything.
and can speak the language. So we should have a relationship with Africa. We should have a relationship. That is the birthplace of not just black people. Africa is the birthplace of humanity,
Mhm.
white people included. So we should have a relationship with that. We'd be a fool not to have a relationship. Why couldn't what was the guy in Zimbabwe who he's gone now? What is his name? Oh
Mugabe.
God, I'm getting old. Mugabe. Why couldn't Mugabe have a business relationship with black entrepreneurs?
Right.
Why should Africans have to turn to an onerous, usurious institution like the IMF or the World Bank?
Oh my God.
And that's why, Africa's economy, when people tell me Africa is independent, I laugh
Yeah.
because I know they're not independent. Africa is owned by the IMF and the World Bank.
Right.
That's who controls that country. And
Right.
and transnational corporations and transnational interests.
Yes.
Citibank has more authority in Africa than the average African president.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy. So yes, we should, because here's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us are the key to each other's independence. And
Yes.
until we figure that shit out, we will still be here insulting each other. We'll still be using the same colonial insults against one another. So there's no question we should be doing business. We should be doing international trade. We should be running export and import businesses. We
Yes.
should be buying goods from African wholesalers. We should be buying products from African distributors. That's not Pan-Africanism. That's common sense.
Right.
That has nothing to do with pen. That's common sense. That's how you create a strong financial entity. That's how you aggregate your money.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you consolidate your financial power. We
Right.
should absolutely be doing that. And until both groups are empowered, this situation will never change.
Yep.
Never.
Right. Right. And I think, and I also agree with you 100%. And because I want to say this, and you guys know I've been being in Uganda, and I have my show there. The amount of talent that is in Africa. It's a young, vibrant place, especially sub-Saharan Africa. You got a lot of people that are bright, a lot of talent, and at least in the African American community, even on Black YouTube, just think about how developed Black YouTube is now. In comparisons to white YouTube, because they have a lot more stuff, right? But as far as Black YouTube, you can come to Black YouTube and you have problems with game. You can find that as a Black man. You can come in Black YouTube and find stuff on business. You can find people, Black YouTube, Black doctors. You can find all of these things just in Black YouTube, how to do stuff from Black YouTubers. Like our infrastructure in the way that we can do things, you can find somebody Black doing damn near anything in America as African American. It's so easy. It's so easy in order to get like mentored by Black in this day and age because of the internet. But a lot of Africans, they don't have that kind of help in many terms. It's not that they can't do it, but how do you do it? They don't have a community where people share a lot of secrets with you, because you think about it, in America, you come out of college and you have good grades. Yeah, you have people to give you a job. You come out of college in Africa with perfect grades, and if you don't know nobody, you're fucked. And I say this to say this. In some of these Caribbean and African countries, where there are industries that we have that are not even there yet, we have the ability to be able to but we can create relationships to bring loyalty to our groups. And that's the thing that I'll notice about the Chinese. Not to say that we're like the Chinese, because we don't have that kind of money. But the Chinese, they can make people loyal to them based off certain situations. And I think that if African Americans want to have their influence, we definitely need friends. We need people that we have relationships with, people that we help do things and they help us. And we can't just be in America, hashtagging ADOS. We got to have people, that are in other places that are finding out information that we can help, other people, and that we can extend our influence. And that's what I've noticed. And when I go to Uganda, I spend a lot of time there. A lot of people that want to work and want to do a lot of great things, they don't really have anybody to teach them how to do stuff because the people are so young there. So then what you end up having is, like you said, you get the whites coming over there, you get the Chinese coming over there, you get them paying them $80, $90 a month. Come on, man. How can you have a respectful lifestyle, man, making 6 days a week, $90 in a month, $80 in a month? That's ridiculous. And here's somebody that that has the intelligence that if you were able to, bring them under, with their skill set and their know-how, man, they could be, who knows what they can create in that country, and who knows what they could do for us, But I mean, what do you think about that?
It goes back to power. It all goes back. That's why I called my site Power and Strategy. I didn't just come up with that name. It's power is the crucible, it's the backbone of
Mm-hmm.
existence in this society. If you do not have the power to enforce a consequence, if you don't have the power to enact your will, if you don't have the power to make a certain thing or a certain person act in a desired manner, you have nothing, man. You got nothing if you don't have some means by which to enforce your will, to impose your will. You have nothing.
Yep.
You have a bunch of people that are skilled at doing such and such. What institution is there to ensure their success? What
Yes.
institution is there to open the doors for those people? What institution is there to groom those people and say, well, you're going into this network? I told you did a podcast a long time ago. You did a podcast, and I said, what's the one thing you won't see in line in a financial aid line? You said what? I said an Asian. You'll never
Yeah. For the most part.
in the financial, you'll see everybody except an Asian in the financial aid line. That's because the the power, the collective power. China is a collective, it is an international power, it is a superpower. They have nuclear weapons, they have atomic weapons, but their money game is slick. I mean, their money game is nickel slick. Hell, they have us in debt. The United States is in debt to China. They hold, a good amount of our bonds. They could basically implode the American economy. Now, it probably wouldn't be to their advantage to do so, but they have the option to do it. China and the Chinese are the coldest power tricks I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
They are the coldest ones at working that debt game, getting you in their hand, getting you in the palm of their hand, in their pocket, getting you at their mercy through very gentle persuasion. No threats, very gentle persuasion.
Right.
They have the power to enforce a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
That's why nobody better not touch an Asian kid. Even
Right.
if he doesn't even speak Chinese, you better not. Harry, this kid named Harry at my martial arts dojo. Harry plays baseball. Harry don't know shit about Confucius. Harry don't know shit about Buddha. But I guarantee you one thing: you put your hand on Harry, you got hell to pay,
Yep.
because the Chinese embassy and the various diplomatic institutions in America that represents that country has the power to inflict a consequence on anybody that fucks with Harry. If you do not have power, you have nothing. If you have power, if you
Mm-hmm.
do not have the ability to inflict a consequence, you have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. You're just a rich sucker. You are Mark. You are the nigga walking down the darkest alley in the black community,
Mm-hmm.
with your chains out. You don't have a gun. Your chains are out, and you asking to get licked. You are asking to get licked. So you can have all those things, but if you have no power, if you have no infrastructure by which to use that talent, and something to protect that infrastructure, to enforce the will of that infrastructure, you just got a bunch of niggas that know a lot of shit, that
That's true.
walking around with useless information. And so what will happen is white people will see them and see how they can be exploited to make a dollar off of them, but you won't be able to make a dime. They'll get sucked up into Apple. They'll get sucked into Microsoft. They'll get sucked into MIT. They'll get sucked into all of the elite institutions and all the billion-dollar corporations, because those people have the ability to
Mm-hmm.
nurture that talent because they intend to exploit that talent. Those countries, a lot of times, they don't have those pipelines. They don't have that institution. They don't have that ability to create that type of infrastructure because they have no collective power,
Mm-hmm.
no economic power, no political power. You know,
And that definitely sounds like our group. So, and so somebody says, how do we go get him out? Listen, 93 minutes. We'll set up a whole show about that because Tony definitely is power and strategy, right? We were supposed to do something, but we're gonna probably do that on the next show. How do we gain power? Okay, we'll talk about that because I got another show that I gotta do. But I will do this. Let me do this real quick. You got about 5 more minutes for me, Tony?
I got all the time in the world. It's
All the time.
Friday. I'm
Okay.
wide open.
And Tone Talks and Yvette are hosting the ADOS conference in October. Shout out to them. I don't, it's a lot of things that Yvette Cardinale and Tone Talks. We definitely have a different disagreements on a whole lot of stuff, but on this shit right here, I'm all for it. If they have a conference, I think I'll be in the surgery rotation. I won't be able to make it, but I definitely will support or I will donate to them. So I want to thank everybody. Let me do this real quick. 415 people here. I'm glad to see during Black History Month. I know it's the shortest month, but see, we're gonna bring Tony back, our historian, on the AG Gaston, and we'll talk some more about power. I'm glad to see, the African Americans, the ADOS people, really unified in a positive way on YouTube. And again, this is not. I hope this is not about attacking other groups or whatever, because we got to also remind ourselves we have made some serious mistakes about not capitalizing on our own opportunities.
Absolutely.
And that's something that a lot of Blacks in our community don't want to hear. But we miss opportunities all the time. We don't create loyalty within the group. We don't create opportunities for people in our group. So just because your grandfather was a slave and my grandfather was a slave, just because we Black, that don't mean that we're gonna be loyal to the group.
There's an old saying, O'Shea.
What's that?
If you can't count on people to do the right thing, you don't give them a choice.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
if
sir.
you can't count on people to do the right thing, you don't give them a choice. And as far as missed opportunities, you're exactly right. Either you take care of your business or you become someone else's business.
Right. That's exactly it. So, we can be mad at other groups for however they got on or whatever, but we got to point the finger to a certain degree at some of the stuff that we have not been doing. And we trying to get our people, especially the men, hey, let's start trying to work together. I have a new segment that's going to be coming out. Some people that actually have legitimate Black businesses. I know one brother. Let me shout him out right now. The brother actually sells alcoholic cupcakes. Ain't this a bitch? It really does, right? And his name is tipsytulips.com. TIPSY tulips.com. It's a good brother, Craig Harper, out of Atlanta. And these are the kind of businesses that I would like to see. I want to put on, if I can get like 10 or 15 Black businesses every week, I could do a podcast with Dima, and we could give like a top 10 ADOS businesses for African American, something like that. And it may or may not get a lot of views. I don't really give a shit, but it's just about, helping our people out. People who are out here doing stuff, help your people out. That's all I'm concerned about. You see your people trying to do the right thing, help them motherfuckers out if they good people. You know what I mean? So that's what we supposed to be doing. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm trying to figure out how I can get a Figures phone. I heard it's a Figures phone. It's a Black cell phone company.
Really?
Yeah, Figures. I saw it on. There was a documentary called. It's a documentary by the rapper Killer Mike.
Okay.
It's called Trigger Warnings. And he had this episode where he was trying to live Black for 24 hours. Now, needless to say, he went through some changes because everything. A white man was controlling. He couldn't even get a Black-owned weed man. All his weed was coming from Hispanics and coming from white people. He couldn't even get high off a nigga. He couldn't even support a nigga that was a weed dealer. So he had to give up basically everything in trying to live Black. you know. And he went to this store, and it was this dude at the store, you know, showing them all these black-owned products. And one of them was a cell phone, a Figures. I think it was a Figures cell phone of a black man that actually sells you know, a cell phone. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get me a Figures phone. It's different from an Obama phone. I don't want that Obama shit, that Section 8 Obama shit. I'm looking for a Figures phone. But yeah, we have black products out there that we don't even know about. You know, there are black businesses out there that, you know, that are actually prosperous that we're
Yeah,
unaware
unaware of them. Yeah, and I'd like to know them about them. You know, basically, what up, Alexander Diamond? If you guys send me emails, you know, support black business. Don't send me no bullshit business though. But if you actually, you know, have some good shit, I'm gonna do it. You know, like I really am big about helping us. You know, because I'm really serious about that. So I really appreciate that. We have our professor of of all history, really, Tony Maceo. He was nice to come by tonight, and I hopefully we can have him on maybe tomorrow, and we'll talk about the AG Gasson, how to get power. Because he's a chess connoisseur. Are you like a chess master, brother? What would you consider yourself?
I teach chess. I'm a chess instructor and coach.
Okay.
I have a scholastic chess team. I work with children in a low income community in Ohio, and you know,
Okay.
teach them chess. And so it's a scholastic club. I have a community club
Okay.
that we do that here. So I also have a chess website. I have a chess website. It's fairbornchess.org. That's for the chess players, fairbornchess.org. But I'm a chess instructor, and I teach kids, you know, chess because chess is a game that deals with critical thinking, planning, long-term planning, skills that are transferable in life. You know, so that's one thing I do. That's one thing I enjoy doing. So, but yes, we do need to talk about A.G. Gaston because he's probably one of the most important figures in the civil rights movement. He is one of the most important. He is really one of the true unsung heroes. You talk about power, that man knew power. Anytime a man can call a bank, anytime a man can call a white bank and tell them to take down the white and colored signs, that's power.
Right.
No marching, no marching, no protesting. You don't take them goddamn signs down, my money come out that bank. Bank desegregated right away.
I know that's right.
You see,
I know that's
so
right.
that I respect power. No matter who has, I respect it and I study it. So A.G. Gaston needs to be discussed. Reginald F. Smith needs to be talked about.
Oh, see, I
One of
didn't
our
even.
first,
Okay.
Reginald F. Smith, one of our powerful black billionaires. You know,
You wrote
he
about
was.
him on the on Negro Manosphere, right?
Yes, sir, I did. Reginald Smith,
The
I
late
did.
Reginald Smith. And guys, see, that's
Late.
why you need to read the NegroManosphere.com. See, this is where all your super chat money be going, okay? Besides the money that I be spending in the whorehouse down the street. But a lot of you brothers don't know that the NegroManosphere.com updates every day. We have 1,000 articles on the site. So those of you who pledged on Patreon, those of you who super chat, we put the war on paper. You know what I mean? Ebooks, everything, man. And we've been up. We have 1,000 articles on the site for brothers, and we have all this information on the Negro Manosphere and Power Strategy, which is Tony's site. So this is what we try to tell you, black men, as you support. I know it's easy to give money. Read the articles. This, like I said, niggas will give money that won't read shit. Here go $100. I ain't reading that. Read the stuff.
Well,
Go ahead, brother.
I put an article up there. One of my best ones, and I thought somebody would be able to appreciate that. Was the black woman that was fucking the white man that was responsible for shooting Martin Luther King Jr.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a black woman that had sex. And she was his side piece. She wasn't even his main bitch. She was his side piece. And actually, she was there that day and saw the whole thing go down and saw her man come in with the gun and disassemble it.
You mean James? Was it James Earl Jones?
James Earl Ray, but James Earl Ray didn't shoot Martin Luther King.
Who shot him?
It was a man. There's a book called The Plot to Kill King. It was written by William Pepper, who was the King family attorney. They had a civil trial in Memphis where they determined that the jury deliberated for about 45 minutes, and they determined that it was a government conspiracy that actually killed King. And the man who was involved with the shooter, the shooter in the book is a man by the name of Frank Strouser. He was a Memphis police officer. And the man who hid his weapon and disassembled his weapon was the love interest of this black woman she was 17 years old. She was 17 years old, came up from the Mississippi Delta, and this white man was married. He was married to a white woman and fucking around with her on the side and got her pregnant. And
Frank
so she
Strouser,
was
huh?
no, it wasn't Frank Strouser. Her love interest was a man by the name of Lloyd Jowers. Lloyd Jowers was the man who owned the bar that Strouser was crouched upon when he shot King. They were a part of that conspiracy. It was Jowers who took Strouser's weapon and disassembled it. She came back there when the shooting was going on and saw him taking apart the weapon. He had actually been contracted to hire these shooters. And she was there that day when that happened. And that man, Jowers, was her baby daddy. She was his side piece. And subsequently, a LA Times reporter asked her, said, well, didn't Dr. King mean anything to you? And she replied, quote, no, that really didn't mean much to me. I had my freedom already because I was with a white man.
That one slipped by me. I usually see all of them, but I gotta go get that one.
It's on the Negro Manosphere. It's called The Boss and the Side Piece. The Boss and the Side Piece. It's on the Negro Manosphere, and it's on powerandstrategy.com. This is a black woman who was, involved in this, and she subsequently testified in open court to this, gave an affidavit to this effect. So, these things people say, well, people always tell me, see, white people appreciate history. Niggas will say you're living in the past. It's not about living in the past. It's about making sense of the present. History is a living thing. It's not something that's dead. It is living, So we don't tend to value history as much as we should. Because we don't value history as much as we should, motherfuckers can run the okie doke on you. People can run in. They run a very old playbook on you. They have you out here marching, and none of these marches ever go anywhere. None of them ever really accomplish anything. A couple of stars and celebrities are made from them, but in terms of how they function and how they run, there's a night and day difference between those protests and the original protests. But again, I'm not going to get into that because I'm starting to get off topic. But the point is this: read the articles, please. Okay. Personally, read the articles, and do not, again, somebody just subscribe to the YouTube page, subscribe to the website, subscribe
to powerandstrategy.com, y'all.
Powerandstrategy.com. Subscribe to the website, powerandstrategy.com. Again, like O'Shea said, read the articles, because there's some very, very interesting and inspiring stories that we have to tell about who we are. And again, like we said at the top of this program, a lot of Africans, a lot of people that are looking down on us were inspired by us.
Yep.
The very same people that are turning their nose down. Their parents were dick riders on the civil rights movement. Their parents were inspired by Adam Clayton Powell, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Robert F. Williams, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and the list goes, Daisy Lee Bates and Fannie Lou Hamer. The list goes on and on. We inspired them. But you don't know that story. And the killing part is that some of us don't even care. That's the tragedy. That they are here because of you. You made it possible for them to come here and talk shit to you. You made it possible for them to stand in your face, and run that bullshit down that they're running. Had it not been for those people, you go over there in certain parts of South Africa, there are more posters and pictures of Martin Luther King than Malcolm X in portions of South Africa. When Malcolm X got killed, they didn't riot in Harlem, but they rioted in parts of Africa. because he had inspired them, you know. So you are the soul. Our history is the soul of the Western Hemisphere. We are the soul of the Eastern Hemisphere. We are the soul of this planet. Do you know how much game is in your history? Do you know how much power and knowledge is in your history? Do you have any idea the level of commitment, the level of gamesmanship, the level of strategy, the level of cunning, the level of intelligence and depth that is put into who we are as a people? Do you have any idea what that's worth? White people do because they're teaching it to you in your colleges. White people do because they're writing the book. They're writing all those books that are becoming New York bestsellers. I'm sorry, New York Times or whatever that bestseller list is. They're on the bestsellers list, talking about you. They're making a mint talking about you. The premier historian of the civil rights movement is a white man. That is disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. To hear about your own story, you got to turn to somebody else. That's a horrible state of affairs. And you wonder why you're not respected. You wonder why nobody likes you. You wonder why nobody wants to be around you. Nobody likes a weak person. Nobody likes a loser. Nobody likes a chump. Nobody, not even the Democratic Party.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
it's a situation where, you know, not just learning who you are. Don't just get
Right.
information. A lot of people will say, well, you got all this information for information's sake. You don't get information for information's sake. You learn a lesson from it and you use it to empower yourself.
Right.
Because I'm not an advocate of just learning information just for the sake of learning it. Find a way to use it. Find a way to empower yourself.
Mhm.
Learn the game. The article I wrote on A.G. Gaston, which is on the Negro Manosphere, is called The Black Titan. He lists in there 10 rules for wealth.
Mhm.
And one of the rules, he says, wear the same suit over and over again. He said, because if the suit has money in the pockets, does anybody care what the suit looks like? If there's money in the damn pocket,
Right.
you understand?
I
And
know
he
that's
says,
right.
stick with the little man. Stop trying to be something you're not. The little man is the one that's going to help you get over, not the white people and all the other people you're trying to emulate. The Negro Manosphere is the biggest example of that. The Negro Manosphere is directed towards black men. It's directed toward the little man. And look at the juggernaut that's here. On this jug, look who you got. Look at the lineup you got here. You got Alan Roger Curry. You got Rom Wells. You got Donovan Sharp. What's the other brother? Alexander Marouz or whatever his name is.
Yeah, yeah. Tony Maceo.
Notwithstanding, you got Tony Maceo, President Come. You have an all-star lineup on the Negro Manosphere. Alan Roger Curry, and for you niggas that think that the white man's Alan Roger Curry is respected amongst the white folks. So we got the mainstream coming to us.
Yeah.
We don't have to come to it. The mainstream is crossing over to us.
Right.
Look at how much game and strategy and cunning is in your community. Look at the wealth that you have here. You don't appreciate it, but everybody else does.
Right.
Everybody else is appreciating your shit. I'm sure O'Shea Duke Jackson could have probably went to any white outlet and made six figures 10 times over. But he's here with you niggas that are not pressing that like button. He's here having to tell you niggas to hit the like button. He could be somewhere with him a white bitch, probably getting him some head, but he here telling you to like the video for free.
Oh my god. Oh shit, the likes going up now.
Damn right the lights going up.
They're going up, man.
Don't make me go off, cause I go off. I was gonna be cool, but don't make me go off, cause I will.
Oh
I
man, no. We gonna be nice to y'all because it's Black History Month. We ain't gonna kill you niggas tonight, but we you know we can't tell you niggas next time around. We might have to really this AG gas. So, Tony, when can we have you come back, brother?
Well, I'm always around, man. I'm always up to come on here and do
Okay.
my thing. I'm always here because O'Shea Duke Jackson. I'm gonna sit here and he's very modest, but O'Shea Duke Jackson, his opportunity for me to display my talent or whatever anyone think I may or may not have. He gave me an opportunity. He put his money where his mouth is. Jesus paid it all on the cross, but O'Shea pays it all every month ahead of time. So again, this this juggernaut called the Negro Manosphere. This is the backbone. This is the lifeblood. This is the heartbeat of the Black Manosphere. And I'm gonna say this, and this might ruffle some niggas' feathers. Without the Negro Manosphere, there is no Black YouTube. I'm gonna say that again. Without the Negro Manosphere, there is no YouTube. There is no Black YouTube, excuse me. There is no Black YouTube. And I know about, Tommy Sotomayor and all of that stuff, but the Negro Manosphere, who else do you know has had the variety and cross section of people on here? He's had uh, guys like ABL, everybody from the ABL to the Dynasty Mears, to the Obsidians, to the Cynthia G's, to the what's the other brother? Phil from the Advice Show. He's had Ringo TV. He's had I think Brother Xavier may have been on here
Yeah,
once or twice.
all of
He's
them.
had my man, the Minister of Defense. You're gonna have to teach me that roundhouse kick, George. If if you in the chat, we're gonna have to get together. You're gonna have to show a nigga that roundhouse. He's had the George Makins on here. He's had everyone. He's had the AM1s on here. He's had the Xanatos Clutches on here. He's had the Donovan Sharps on here. He's had everybody on here. He's had a cross section of people on here. He's had a vast variety of perspectives from Black men on this channel. So the least you can do for all this work and everything that you're getting, the least you can do is hit that like button, nigga. The least.
I'm gonna use that as a sound bite on my third box. I got it. I got it.
That's the least you can do. All right, niggas are tight. You don't want to get up off no money, but goddamn, make that mouse work.
Right. Hit the
Make that
like.
mouse do what it do. Hit the motherfucking light.
I hit the like, nigga. God damn
What you
it.
want him to give you some butt naked white women? I mean, what you want? I mean, and even on the Negro Manosphere, he done had some smoking ass big booty, but even the big booty bitches fuck with O'Shea. What's not the light?
I know,
What's not
man.
the light?
They be hating on the likes, man. They be hating on me, but oh
So I mean,
man.
support the Black Manosphere. Support O'Shea Duke Jackson because he's doing some real shit here. He's giving voices to the voiceless. I wrote an article going back to my article again. I'm sorry, yeah, nigga, I'm gonna plug my shit, like it or not.
Go ahead and plug it, brother.
My original article that I came on with was the history of the Negro Manosphere, and which was the history of Black media, where the first Black media personality said that he wanted us to tell our own story. The vision of Black media from the men that started it was for us to tell our own story, was for us to speak for us.
Right.
That's what the Negro Manosphere does. You're not going to hear a Black male voice in Esquire. Are you serious? You're not going to hear a Black male voice in Jet. You're not going to hear a not working class black men, not the variety, not the display, not the range of black voices. You ain't gonna hear that shit in those magazines, but you gonna hear it here on YouTube, and you gonna see it on the Negro Manosphere. And he give you some big booty bitches to go along with it. So what else can you?
Right. These
What else
niggas.
can you say? Come on, nigga, get up off them likes, man. Hit that button, man. Stop tripping. You know what it is. Make it do what it do. You
Stop
know.
tripping, y'all. Oh shit! Example plus love me with the light skin whitewash dudes. What up? What up? What up, my big bro Clutching here? Tony, man, I knew you was gonna kill it as always, but I've been wanting to get Tony Tony back on. Because Tony is very talented. I know he had took some time off for some things. And they're actually my favorite podcast. So they won you guys know the Negro Manosphere Awards is coming up again in June. Hopefully we have our first conference. I know I promised that the end of this year. So guys, we gonna come up with them big booties on the site. I know you brothers want to see some of them African models and things. I know what you niggas is wanting. Okay, I know what y'all niggas want. We gonna work on all of that too. But I want to just tell these brothers
75 likes. Let's get 75 likes.
75
if you
likes.
Want some big booty, if you want us to give you some big booty bitches, give us 75.
75.
Let's get 75 jumping off in here. Let's get 75 likes.
I know that's
Subscribe
right.
to the website. Subscribe to the website, not the YouTube channel. The website. The website.
Power and Strategy.
The website.
Powerandstrategy.com.
Website. But again, I mean, get the likes up, man, because the niggardry remains at an all-time high. You're gonna get your dose of niggardry. You're gonna get your thirst box episode. You're gonna get all that shit.
Right.
You get comedy, you get information, you get politics, you get dating, this is your one-stop shop for everything, including the niggardry.
A lot of fuckery going on over here.
Lot of fuckery. We even got to play like ABL.
Yeah. Where's ABL? He was here. He left.
So we got to play. Well, I think I may have been talking a little too black for him. He ain't gonna stay around.
Yeah. You give ABL a lot of problems.
He ain't gonna stay around if it's too black. Plus, he cut up a snippet of our podcast. He cut up a snippet of that podcast, and he called me a left-leaning columnist.
Wait a minute. He put it on his page?
Yeah, well, on his YouTube site. Yeah. That debate we did about immigration.
Wait, when did he do that?
Oh, he did that like it was 2 days after we did the podcast. I actually subscribed to this clean head Negro.
Oh my God.
Slice that up and put that on his damn YouTube channel with me saying my little piece about immigration, a left-leaning, that's what he called me, a left-leaning panelist talks about immigration. He got all them redneck conservative-ass white people taking shots at and he didn't give me a chance to. I didn't get a chance to really defend my point because because on the Hangout and on the Rumble it'd be like 10 niggas up here. You see what I'm saying? And you can't give a mic to everybody at one time. But anyway, yeah, he cut up a section of my podcast and used it and put on his shit. And those white folks were on there, fuck him. I suppose we supposed to let all these Mexicans in here and blah. I mean, they were going off.
Right.
And I never forgot his ass for that. But anyway,
we gonna have him on. But listen, let me get to LAR. I gotta do the brother pill because I missed last night. So I'm gonna go right from this one. And Tony, excellent job, brother. So tomorrow we definitely try to do it again. But let me. So guys, listen. Go to my other channel, O'Shea Vlogcast. I'm getting ready to do the brother pill with LAR movement. So it's 2:43. Now I got to get my black ass. LAR waiting on me, so we gonna do that. Shout out to everybody.
LAR is my nigga.
Yeah,
LAR is my nigga. I got love for that dude. Yeah,
he's good. I told you, man, we the second best podcast of all time. Max City Limits is the first. The Brother Pill podcast. I always say that. Shout out to Max City Limits. They have the best podcast on YouTube, and we number 2. But we coming for that number 1 spot. We ain't there yet. When we had Donovan, we was coming close, but now we got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. But again, Tony, I thank you. Thank you all the people that were here tonight. Guys, go to my other channel. And the title of tonight's show is So single mothers, so guys who date single mothers are the real alpha males. You know, I got to talk about that call-in show. So again, Tony, shout out your website real quick, and then we'll go ahead and end it.
My website is powerandstrategy.com. Go to powerandstrategy.com. Subscribe to powerandstrategy.com, not the YouTube. Powerandstrategy.com. Check for my articles on the Negro Manosphere. Check for my articles there. If you have any questions or you want to, I even take insults as long as you don't get too funky. Wayofstrategy44@gmail.com. Wayofstrategy44@gmail.com. My Patreon is also wayofstrategy44@gmail.com. Excuse me, not my Patreon, my PayPal. My PayPal is wayofstrategy44@gmail.com. PayPal, wayofstrategy44@gmail.com. Patreon is Power of Strategies. Power of Strategies on Patreon. But other than that, check us out at Max City. Check me out at powerstrategy.com. That's all I got, because I'm getting ready to take my ass over there to the vlog channel, and I'm going to hit the like button. So you niggas should do the same.
All right, and shout out to JC the Black Guy. The Haitian Revolution was fueled by hatred, and look where it led my people. What can Black America learn from our failures and rise more powerful? I got a lot of respect for the Haitians, though. For real. I really, 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 really fuck with them. Peace out, everybody, and thanks again, Tony. We'll see you on the other channel. I'm out.